Welcome to World Alert Updates. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more updates. Breaking news. Chinese flotilla surrounds Philippine vessel in tense South China Sea standoff. The world awoke to alarming headlines on October 6, 2025. In the disputed Spratly Islands, the BRP Sierra Madre, a lone Philippine supply ship, was encircled by a fleet of Chinese Coast Guard and militia vessels. Their formation was unmistakable. A show of force, a silent claim. This sea is ours. The world watched, breath held. The South China Sea has long been a flashpoint, with China, the Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, and Taiwan all staking claims. Chinese ships have blocked, harassed, and intimidated rivals before, but never with such overwhelming numbers. The BRP Sierra Madre, a rusting WY-SCO relic grounded as a military outpost, looked fragile against the modern Chinese fleet. The standoff was a stark symbol, a small nation's resolve against a superpower's might. International statements poured in. Washington reaffirmed its defense pact, the EU called for calm, Tokyo and Canberra voiced concern. But words did little to change the reality at sea. The Chinese ships held their positions, engines humming, a wall of steel and intent. The world waited, anxious. Would this be the spark that ignited open conflict? On board the Sierra Madre, the crew braced for the unknown. Their ship, battered and outgunned, was now the front line of a global crisis. The standoff was more than a territorial dispute. It was a test of resolve, sovereignty, and the fragile peace in Asia. The world's eyes were fixed on a single rusting ship, trapped in the dragon's embrace. The tension was palpable, the outcome uncertain. The South China Sea had never felt so small, or so dangerous. On board the BRP Sierra Madre, tension was thick. Philippine Marines moved with practiced calm, but anxiety flickered in their eyes. Surrounded, isolated, and outnumbered, they relied on a crackling radio and distant drone hums for contact with the outside world. Fear was ever present, but so was duty. The ship was more than a post. It was a symbol of national defiance. Each Marine felt the weight of their country's hopes. Yet, hope persisted. They were not just soldiers, they were guardians of sovereignty. Their commander's steady words, "We are the shield. We stand for every Filipino. We are not alone," kept spirits alive. The Marines clung to the belief that their government and allies were working for a peaceful solution. They prepared for the worst, but held fast to hope. In the gathering dusk, their courage became a beacon of defiance. The world watched, but for these Marines, the standoff was personal, a test of resolve and unity. They would not back down. They would hold their post, no matter the cost. On that lonely outpost, surrounded by a hostile fleet, they stood as heroes. Their stand was a message. The Philippines would not yield. Just as the standoff reached its peak, an unexpected voice broke the silence: North Korea. Pyongyang's state media condemned China's actions and declared solidarity with the Philippines. The world was stunned. North Korea, long dependent on China, had sided with Manila in a public rebuke of its patron. In Washington, Tokyo, and Seoul, analysts were left speechless. Was this a mistake, or a calculated move by Kim Jong Un? For Manila, the support was bewildering, but welcome. The global reaction was a mix of confusion and curiosity. Social media exploded, experts scrambled to explain the shift. North Korea's statement didn't change the military reality, but it upended the diplomatic landscape. Suddenly, all eyes turned to the Korean peninsula. In capitals worldwide, North Korea's declaration became the only topic. Emergency meetings and secure calls followed. At first, many dismissed it as a propaganda stunt. But the statement's specificity, naming the Philippines and denouncing China, suggested intent. Analysts dug for clues, secret talks, hidden strategies. The real question: what did this mean for North Korea's relationship with China? Beijing's response was muted, its silence telling. Behind closed doors, Chinese officials were likely furious at the public rebuke. For the US and allies, the move was both opportunity and risk. Could this drive a wedge between Beijing and Pyongyang, or make North Korea even more unpredictable? Some saw a chance to exploit the rift. Others feared new instability. Was this leverage for future nuclear talks, or a genuine break? Diplomats watched, cautious. The chessboard of Asian geopolitics had become a chaotic puzzle. North Korea's wildcard move left everyone guessing. The region's balance had shifted overnight. To grasp the shock, consider the deep ties between China and North Korea. Their alliance was forged in the Korean War, sealed by blood, and formalized in a 1961 defense treaty. China is North Korea's economic lifeline: food, fuel, and trade flow across their border. This dependency gives Beijing immense leverage. For decades, their alliance has been a bulwark against US influence in Asia. North Korea's public defiance is like a child rebuking its only protector. It defies 7 decades of shared history and strategic alignment. For Pyongyang to risk angering Beijing over a maritime dispute seemed unthinkable until now. Despite deep ties, North Korea has always guarded its independence, juche, or self-reliance. The Kim dynasty resists being a Chinese puppet, pushing back to assert autonomy. During the Cold War, Kim Il-sung played China and the USSR against each other for aid. Even after the Soviet collapse, Pyongyang resisted Beijing's pressure, refusing Chinese-style reforms. Tensions have flared over North Korea's nuclear program, with China supporting sanctions. Pyongyang sees this as betrayal, fueling mistrust. North Korea has even sided with Southeast Asian nations against China before. It is not a passive client. It acts when its interests are at stake. The Philippines and North Korea share a quiet, pragmatic relationship. Diplomatic ties were established in 2000, marked by humanitarian aid and mutual respect in international forums. The Philippines has provided food and medical assistance to North Korea, maintaining communication even during tense times. Both nations share a post-colonial identity and a desire for independent development. North Korea sees the Philippines as a fellow developing nation, not an adversary. This limited goodwill set the stage for Pyongyang's surprising support. An unlikely friendship suddenly found itself at the center of a global crisis. Why would North Korea risk everything to challenge China? Economic desperation is one motive. Sanctions have crippled its economy, and reliance on China is a vulnerability. By acting independently, Pyongyang signals it's open for business with others. Siding with a US ally like the Philippines could be a bid for new partners or leverage in future negotiations. It's a high-stakes gamble for aid or sanctions relief. Strategic independence is another driver. Kim Jong Un wants to be seen as a sovereign leader, not China's proxy. Public defiance forces Beijing to take North Korea seriously. Domestically, the move boosts Kim's image as a fearless, independent leader. The narrative: North Korea stands up to a superpower, defending a smaller nation. In a tightly controlled society, this message strengthens the regime's grip. North Korea's declaration has upended Asia's alliances. The old certainties are gone. The region is now a multi-dimensional chessboard. Is this a permanent break with China, or a strategic ploy? A truly independent North Korea could seek new patrons, or become more volatile. Alternatively, this could be coordinated theater, designed to confuse adversaries and extract concessions. The world is left to watch and wait. Will China punish North Korea? Will the Philippines and its allies exploit the rift? The South China Sea standoff is now a stage for a much larger drama. The balance of power in the Indo-Pacific is shifting. The game has changed, and the players are moving in unexpected ways. As the sun sets over contested waters, the world holds its breath. The next move could redefine the region. The dawn will bring new realities and new risks.